Reality is not separate from you, a quantum perspective. Before we begin, take a moment to slow down. This is not a video meant to be consumed quickly, nor is it something to simply listen to in the background. It is an invitation to pause, to soften your breathing, and to let your attention settle. What you are about to hear is not designed to convince you, persuade you, or offer final answers. It is meant to open a space where curiosity can breathe and where reality can be felt rather than explained. For most of human history, the universe was understood as something happening outside of us, a vast stage of stars, matter, and forces unfolding independently, while humanity stood apart, watching from a distance. Nature was seen as external, impersonal, and indifferent. Consciousness, in this view, was a late arrival, a fragile spark, emerging by accident in a universe that did not need it. Classical physics strengthened this worldview. Reality appeared solid, predictable, and governed by fixed laws of cause and effect. If one could know every variable, one could predict the future with certainty. The universe was compared to a machine, perfectly ordered and mechanically precise. Matter came first, and mind followed later, as a secondary phenomenon with no real influence on the structure of reality itself. But as scientific tools improved and observation became more refined, this certainty began to fracture. When physicists looked deeper into matter, they did not find the solid foundations they expected. Instead, they encountered something profoundly unsettling: emptiness, uncertainty, and behavior that defied classical logic. The closer science looked, the less familiar reality became. Inside the atom, there is no solid center holding everything together. There are no tiny objects colliding like miniature planets. What exists instead is mostly empty space, animated by invisible forces and fluctuating energy. The sense of solidity you experience, the ground beneath you, the body you inhabit, is not solidity at all in a fundamental sense, but a stable pattern of interactions occurring at extraordinary speeds. At the deepest level, reality is not composed of static things. It is composed of movement, vibration, relationship. Particles are not objects in the traditional sense. They are events, temporary expressions of possibility emerging from an underlying field. Matter is not fixed substance, but condensed activity. One of the most radical discoveries of quantum physics is that particles do not exist in a single, definite state until they are measured. Before observation, they exist as a range of possibilities, mathematically described as probability waves. This state, known as superposition, suggests that reality itself exists as potential before it becomes experience. This realization carries enormous implications. It means that reality, at its most fundamental level, is not fully formed until interaction occurs. until measurement happens, until something engages with what exists only as possibility. The universe is not a finished structure unfolding independently. It is an ongoing process of becoming. This relationship between potential and observation becomes clear in what is known as the observer effect. In controlled experiments, particles behave differently depending on whether they are being measured. When unobserved, they behave like waves, spread across space. When observed, they collapse into a single, localized outcome. The act of measurement alters what occurs. This does not mean that human thoughts magically shape reality. Quantum physics does not support fantasy or wishful thinking, but it does reveal something undeniable. The universe is participatory. Observation is not neutral. Interaction matters. Reality responds to relationship, not isolation. Here, science and spirituality begin to approach the same mystery from different directions. Ancient traditions have long suggested that the world we perceive is not ultimate reality. Beneath appearances lies a deeper field of existence, one that gives rise to form but is not limited by it. In Eastern philosophy, this is called Maya, the illusion of form. In mystical language, it is described as a veil. Modern physics speaks differently, yet the resonance is unmistakable. Probability waves collapsing into matter, mere spiritual descriptions of form emerging from formlessness. Different languages, different eras. Yet the same question appears again and again. What is reality before it becomes something we can perceive? While science does not confirm spiritual belief, it increasingly removes the assumptions that once dismissed it. The assumption that matter is primary. The assumption that consciousness is accidental. The assumption that meaning is imposed rather than discovered. These assumptions are no longer as solid as they once seemed. Consider your own experience. Every thought you think is an electrical process. Every emotion produces measurable changes in your body. Your heart, brain, and nervous system generate electromagnetic fields that extend beyond your skin. You are not sealed off from the world. You are in constant exchange with it. At the quantum level, the idea of absolute separation begins to dissolve. Systems influence one another in ways that cannot be explained by distance alone. This becomes especially evident in quantum entanglement, where two particles remain correlated regardless of how far apart they are. When one entangled particle changes state, the other responds instantly. No signal travels between them. No energy crosses space. Einstein famously called this spooky action at a distance because it challenged the idea that space and time are fundamental. Entanglement suggests something profound, that space itself may be a surface feature of reality, not its foundation. Beneath space and time lies a deeper, unified field, where separation does not exist in the way we experience it. Spiritual traditions have always spoken of this unity, the idea of oneness, non-duality. the understanding that the boundary between self and world is not absolute, but perceptual. Quantum entanglement does not prove spirituality, but it removes the argument that such unity is impossible. According to quantum field theory, particles are not the building blocks of reality. Fields are invisible. Continuous fields extend throughout all of space, and what we call particles are simply localized vibrations within those fields. Matter is energy expressing itself in a particular pattern. Even in what we call empty space, there is no true nothingness. The vacuum is alive with fluctuation and potential. This background energy, often referred to as the zero-point field, represents a sea of latent possibility from which all form can arise. Mystical traditions have described this same idea for thousands of years. The Tao, the Source, the Akashic Field, the silent ground of being from which everything emerges and into which everything returns. These are not scientific models, but experiential insights pointing toward the same mystery. Meditation, in many traditions, is not about escaping reality or reaching supernatural states. It is about quieting the surface noise of the mind so deeper layers of awareness can be sensed. When thought slows, presence becomes clearer. This experience does not depend on belief, culture, or education. It arises naturally when attention softens and resistance fades. A sense of connection appears, not as an idea, but as a felt reality, a recognition of being part of something vast and alive. Science is not replacing spirituality, nor is spirituality overtaking science. Instead, both are converging toward a more nuanced understanding of reality. A universe that behaves less like a machine and more like a living process, unfolding through relationship. This shift has implications for how we live. It does not mean we control reality through intention alone, but it does mean awareness matters. Attention shapes experience. How you relate to reality influences how reality reveals itself to you. When awareness is absent, life feels chaotic and fragmented. When awareness is present, patterns begin to emerge. Meaning arises naturally, not because it is imposed, but because it is recognized. This is where science and spirituality truly meet, not in theories or beliefs, but in lived experience, in how you observe, in how you listen, in how you choose to be present without rushing towards certainty. You are not a passive observer in a dead universe. You are a participant in an unfolding mystery. Awareness is not separate from reality. It is one of the ways reality knows itself. The more carefully you observe, the more subtle reality becomes. The more subtle it becomes, the more interconnected everything appears. This is not something to believe, but something to explore gently. Uncertainty, rather than being a flaw, becomes an invitation, an opening. A reminder that reality is richer than any explanation, Instead of demanding answers, you begin to cultivate attention. Instead of seeking control, you discover relationship. Instead of certainty, you find depth. And in this depth, something shifts. Life feels less like something happening to you and more like something unfolding with you. The universe no longer appears distant or indifferent. It becomes intimate, responsive, and alive. Not in a human sense, but in a profoundly relational one. As you move forward, allow these reflections to remain open. Let them inform how you listen, how you observe, how you exist within the world. You do not need to believe anything to participate in this mystery. You only need awareness. The universe is not something you are trapped inside of. It is something you are participating in. And awareness is not separate from reality. It is one of its deepest expressions. Stay focused. Stay consistent. Stay within.